Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is Mariah Carey. The two ladies have had a friendship for many years, but there was a moment in their friendship where Ellen's humor proved to go too far. The big debate with comedians is, are their jokes funny or are they actually mean? Mariah believes that this one was a bit mean, but she did handle it well despite the fact. What happened was she went on Ellen's show to do an interview, and Ellen brought up the rumors that were going around at the time that Mariah might be pregnant. Right away, Mariah says, "Let's not talk about that." But then Ellen takes out 2 glasses of champagne and tries to force her to drink it to prove that she's not pregnant. Mariah is hesitant, and it might be because she was in her early stages of pregnancy at the time, and oftentimes females don't want to reveal it because in the first trimester, miscarriages are common. Sadly, Mariah did have a miscarriage and revealed the news later down the road. I personally watched this video and I did not find it funny. I feel like forcing someone to drink alcohol to prove if they're pregnant or not, like, I get the joke, but probably not a good one, Ellen. Up next, number 9 is Dakota Johnson. Back in 2019, the actress sparked a fire on the internet after she went on the Ellen show for an interview. The two of them have had this ongoing debate on whether or not Ellen has been invited to Dakota's birthday parties. In 2018, Dakota admits that she didn't invite Ellen because she didn't know that she would want to be invited. So she invited Ellen in 2019, but Ellen didn't show up and gave no explanation. But when Dakota went on her show, Ellen called her out and said that she didn't invite her to her birthday party again. The tension was super awkward to watch, I'm not gonna lie. And Dakota says, "Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer." Ellen's producer live ends up confirming that she was invited and didn't go. You can tell that Dakota was not taking Ellen's this time and was making sure that everyone knew that she was invited. Not sure why Ellen was trying to make it look like she wasn't, but the whole thing was super, super awkward. Like, I wish they could have just removed that whole part from the interview. Swiping the number 8 spot is Mark Ruffalo. You're probably wondering what the hell kind of beef he has with Ellen. It all just seems very random, not gonna lie, and it kind of is. Remember when the world went to a frenzy because Ellen was sitting with George Bush at a Dallas Cowboys game? She received a ton of hate for it, but did a monologue on her show where she said that they are friends despite their different beliefs. Like she always does, she spoke about kindness and said that she chooses to be kind to everyone. But Mark didn't agree with that and let his feelings out in a tweet. He wrote, "Sorry, until George W. Bush is brought to justice for the crimes of the Iraq War, including American-led torture, Iraqi deaths and displacement, and the deep scars, emotional and otherwise, inflicted on our military that served his folly, we can't even begin to talk about kindness." Clearly, he does not agree with Ellen's decision on who she chooses to have in her friend circle. Rolling into number 7 is Kelly Ripa. She was one half of the morning show's favorite couples. Her and Michael Strahan were co-hosting Live with Kelly and Michael from 2012 to 2016. But then Michael suddenly announced that he was leaving the show to join ABC's Good Morning America, and his relationship with Kelly began to crumble. Most hosts decided to remain neutral on the conflict, but Ellen invited him on her show, which hurt Kelly's feelings. A source said that Kelly was livid and said, I quote, "Cozying up with Michael was like telling the world she had taken his side and she was taunting Kelly." People had different opinions on the situation though. Some believe that Ellen's decision wasn't intentional, while others thought that she knew what kind of outcome would come from it. Moving on to number 6 is Kathy Griffin. Alright, so they've had drama for a while now apparently. It's been an ongoing feud and it all comes down to whose side of the story you will believe. In 2016, she published a tell-all book called Kathy Griffin's Celebrity Run-Ins, My A to Z Index. In the book, she dished out dirt on about more than 100 celebrities, and Ellen was one of them. She wrote, "I'm almost positive a certain beloved daytime talk show host once had me kicked out of a backstage dressing room at the Emmy Awards. I can't prove it, but this person, who has short blonde hair, has a mean streak that all of Hollywood knows about." But Ellen denies the story and says that Kathy is the mean one. Rumors were claiming that Ellen banned her from her show, but Ellen spoke about it during the interview and said, "I didn't ban her from the show, because first you have to be on the show to be banned." Shots fired. Ellen is sassy. Halfway into our list, number 5 is Caitlyn Jenner. Back in 2015, Caitlyn went on Ellen's show and made a shocking confession, or so it seemed. During her interview, Ellen asked her what her stance was on same-sex marriage, and she said that there was a time that she did not support it. Ellen fired back at her immediately and made it seem like she wasn't supportive of the LGBTQ community. And then, after the interview, Ellen took shots at Caitlyn while talking on the Howard Stern show. She said she was unfairly passing judgment about gay people and marriage. But it turns out that that wasn't the case, and Caitlyn was not happy that she was trying to paint her in that light. Caitlyn opened up about the full story and said that she had actually talked to Ellen on the phone prior to taping the interview and convinced her to discuss her shifting stance on marriage equality. But then Ellen kind of flipped the switch on her during the interview and made it sound like she was against it. That all does seem pretty sketchy. And at number 4 is Joan Rivers. The icon has passed away and is not able to speak on her side of the story anymore, but Kathy Griffin chose to tell it, which is also one of the reasons that her and Ellen still aren't very friendly with each other. Kathy opened up to Variety and said, "One of the things that really hurt Joan, and we talked about it at our last meal together, was that Ellen always shunned her and Ellen thought she was vulgar and not funny." Apparently, despite all of their drama, Kathy still reached out to Ellen to check if she was going to do a tribute for Joan after she died in 2014, but claims said that Ellen did not want to. Kathy finished her story by saying that she wished Ellen would have celebrated her more because she has such an incredible platform, and Joan was the one who broke the glass ceiling for women talk show hosts. So she should have gave like a really nice tribute to her, is what most people believe. Coming into number 3 is NikkieTutorials. The YouTuber went on Ellen's show for an interview earlier this year and was quick to go on the internet and start sharing how bad her experience was. Like Ellen, Nikkie's also a big influence in the LGBTQ community after coming out as transgender on her channel. Before her interview, she gushed online about how excited she was to go on the show because she was a big fan of hers. But after the airing, she said that Ellen didn't even say hi to her before going on stage and said that the whole experience just felt very cold and distant. She also admitted that she didn't even have a place to go to the bathroom, claiming that the closest bathroom to her was reserved for the Jonas Brothers and that she was not allowed to use it. I feel like that's kind of illegal. Where was she going to the bathroom then? Swiping the number 2 spot is Susan Sarandon. She too did not agree with Ellen's speech about being friends with George W. Bush. When Ellen spoke about the controversy on her show, she said, "I have friends who don't think the same things that I do. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people who think the same way you do. I mean be kind to everyone." Susan tweeted a response and posted a quote from Out magazine saying, "But missing the point entirely, DeGeneres framed the issues as simply a matter of her hanging out with someone with different opinions, not a man repeatedly accused of being a war criminal." Clearly, I just think that everyone's gonna have their own opinion on that situation. If Ellen can pick and choose if she's friends with George Bush or if she's not. Yeah, I feel like that everyone's gonna have a different opinion on that. And I'm gonna keep mine to myself. In the number 1 spot is Kevin T. Porter. You know things are bad when a comedian offers donations online in exchange for stories about Ellen being one of the meanest people alive. His words, not mine. That is right. Kevin tweeted out that he would donate to Los Angeles Regional Food Bank if people would share a story when Ellen was mean to them. He quickly got over 2,000 replies with people sharing stories of her being rude. He was wanting to show everyone that Ellen is not what she appears to be and thought if people could see all of these stories at once, it would help shed some light on that. He was exchanging $2 for every story, but then it got hard to tell which stories were real or not, so he just donated $600 and then attached the screenshot of his receipt. So he actually did donate the money. However, I feel like you are going above and beyond to try and expose someone for being mean. And isn't that kind of mean? Kicking off our list at number 10 is how she treats her staff. She's always had a reputation for producing a show that is filled with laughter, positive vibes, and kindness. But it turns out that this might not be the whole truth, and a source came forward saying that she treats her staff like they are her peasants. They came forward and said, when the cameras aren't rolling, she treats staffers as if they are her peasants. She doesn't even brief the staff about the show anymore. They also alleged only a few lucky people are actually allowed to talk to Ellen when working on set, before even looking her in the eye. This mystery source was very passionate about their bad experience and went as far as saying that Ellen plays favorites just to create tension and jealousy. Apparently, Ellen selects which staff to invite to fun events and then leaves the other ones in the dust. Making our way to number 8 is the time that she defended Kevin Hart over a homophobic tweet. She angered a lot of her fans back in 2019 after she interviewed the comedian when he stepped down from being the Oscar host that year. If you missed all of that drama, he was asked to host the Oscar until homophobic tweets from his past resurfaced, and the only way that they would let him host is if he apologized for it. He ended up stepping down from the host position and refused to apologize because he already apologized for them in the past. One of the tweets from 2011 was a joke about what he would do if he caught his son playing with a dollhouse. He tweeted, "I'd beak it over his head and say, 'Stop, that's gay.'" But he refused to apologize, and Ellen actually brought him on her show and supported his decision to step down. She called the people attacking him about his tweets haters and actually encouraged him to not let it destroy him. It comes across very hypocritical, especially after the whole Caitlyn Jenner story I just told you. Like, you were mad at her for not agreeing with same-sex marriage, but this guy straight up posted a homophobic tweet and you're in support. I get that it's not coming across in the right way. Sliding into the number 7 spot is she did not support a writer's strike. Back in 2007, there was a writer's strike and Ellen carried on with the show anyways. She respected the picket lines for one day, but then returned to the studio the following day. She claims that she didn't have to actually follow the legal actions required, and when she filmed the next day, she said, "I love my writers, and in honor of them, I'm not gonna do a monologue." She felt that it was enough to give up the monologue part of her show, but the truth is, she was not supposed to create new episodes at all. The union condemned the decision to move forward and wrote in a statement that Ellen was not welcome in New York, where the show was scheduled to film in a few weeks' time. The Writers Guild of America wrote, "It's sad that Ellen couldn't even stand by writers for more than one day. Writers who have helped make her extremely successful. I'll love your show, but you can't just make a show when there's a writer's strike." Coming to the number 6 spot is she was sued for making fun of a woman's name. It was a very weird lawsuit back in 2016 when a Georgia-based real estate agent named T.T. Pierce sued Ellen for making a joke about her name. It happened during her "What's Wrong with These Ads and Signs" segment when she joked and called her Titty instead of TT. In the lawsuit, Pierce pointed out that Ellen knew her name was pronounced TT and that she faced harassment following the episode. The case was ultimately thrown out, and the judge said that the letter I in the English language can be pronounced several ways. This one will kind of depend on whose side of the story you believe. Ellen's producers did say they never intended to hurt anyone's feelings, but many people believe that Ellen knew that she was just making fun of her on purpose, obviously for the joke of the segment. Halfway through, we have the time she made Corinne Olympias uncomfortable. She was another celebrity who guest appeared on Ellen's show and went on to say that the experience wasn't so nice. She talked about it while speaking on The Morning Breath in 2017 when she was asked if the rumors were true about Ellen being a diva behind the scenes. She admitted that the show isn't what it seems to be and that there's truth that people don't get to see from Ellen. She kept things pretty vague, but said that she felt uncomfortable when talking to her. She said that before the taping, she was super excited because she was a big fan of her, obviously, and said it felt like she'd be talking to Dory from Finding Nemo, like the lovable goofy blue fish played by Ellen. But the experience was different for her, and she said, "I've kept this in for so long, but to be honest, Ellen just made me a little uncomfortable." And for obvious reasons, Ellen denied these claims. Well, to be honest, she just didn't really comment on it altogether. Kind of like an eye roll thing to this whole story. We're at number 4 now, and we have the inappropriate comment about Katy Perry's breasts. Ellen swears that her heart and mind were in the right place when she tweeted out a birthday message for Katy saying, "Happy birthday, Katy, it's time to bring out the big balloons." But it was followed by an image of Ellen with her wife staring at Katy's breasts. The picture was obviously a joke. Both Katy and Ellen's wife are both laughing in it, but fans were not impressed and they actually started a trending hashtag double standard. People weren't impressed, even fellow celebrities joined in on the hashtag. Piers Morgan tweeted, "If a man made this joke, Ellen would lead the cries of sexist pig." People actually claimed that her tweet contradicted her Me Too monologue where she criticized sexual harassment and said it is not a male or female thing. Of Of course, Ellen is a comedian and said that the tweet was just meant as a joke. Taking over the number 2 spot is her charity led to an IRS nightmare. One thing she's known for on her show is all the generous gifts and donations that she gives to people in need. In 2013, she helped a woman named Shonda Fields after she lost her job as a substitute teacher. She gave her whole family approximately $55,000 to help everyone, and of course, they were overjoyed. But later on, tax collectors in Ohio threatened her with jail time for failing to pay $1,700 in taxes for the non-employee compensation awarded to her by The Ellen Show. She ended up having to pay a fine, and fans were actually shocked to hear about it. For some reason, people started coming at Ellen and her team, saying that it's not fair to award people large sums of money that they're gonna have to pay taxes on. Some people said that she lies about the fine print when she gives away all of these prizes on her show, and that they really aren't what they seem to be. I actually have a small fun fact for you. My friend got on The Ellen Show as a nurse, as a guest, and she got to play one of those games and actually won a prize. And she did get her 2 TVs and her check for $20,000. So all I gotta say is, it might be true. There might be some truth to these prizes. Kicking off the countdown list at number 10 is she gave away a fan's gift. One former Ellen fan tweeted out a story with photographic evidence that proved Ellen gave away her hard work. A girl named Danielle Acevedo tweeted out saying, "When I was 15 at The Ellen Show, was doing a contest of fans making a bust of her and sending it to her. I worked so hard on this and even wrote her a letter. Weeks later, she used it as a prop in a game and gave it away to a random person with $500 attached to the bottom." In her tweet, she attached photos of her creating the art piece and then the screenshots from the episode where it was a prop in the game with 5 $100 bills taped to the bottom. Yikes. I mean, as a fan, that would be devastating because you obviously made it as a gift to Ellen, not to be given away to some of her other fans. Like, that was for Ellen. Coming into the number 9 spot is the time she almost got a waitress fired. A woman named Chris Farah shared her bad Ellen experience on Twitter and told the story when Ellen complained about her and almost had her fired. She said in her tweet that when she was working at a restaurant, she served Ellen and her wife Portia, and despite everything seeming okay, Ellen filed a complaint afterwards. Her tweet said, "I worked at Real Food Daily, served her and Portia at brunch. She wrote a letter to the owner and complained about my chipped nail polish. Not that it was on her plate, but just that it was on my hand. I had worked until closing the night before, and this was the next morning. It almost got me fired." Chris explained that she was a huge fan of Ellen, and when her manager pulled her into the office and asked if she served her, she thought maybe she was going to be getting on the show because she had told Ellen that she was an aspiring artist and comedian. But then, yeah, that wasn't the case at all. Oh, that would hurt. Swiping the number 8 spot is she told a celebrity not to talk to guests. A man named Josh Levesky told a story about his friend who used to work as a PA on her show. Apparently, the PA was chatting with the guest star of the day, Russell Brand, and it caused some tension. The tweet said, "Another friend of mine was a PA on her show, and when Russell Brand came into the employee break area to chat with the crew and hang out, Ellen came in and got mad at him, saying he didn't have to interact with those people. And that is why guests have their own area backstage." Clearly, Russell knows that he doesn't have to talk to anyone. If this story is true, I just don't understand why she would care. Ellen has always been very open and she always interacts with her guests and her audience. She dances with them. So why would she care? In spot number 7 is she left a pregnant woman with no benefits. A woman came forward and told a personal story about one of her close friends who worked for Ellen for over 5 years. She goes by the Twitter name Cassandra Tells You So and tweeted out the story saying, "After working for Ellen for over 5 years, close friend left to have a baby and found a different job on a union network with benefits, etc. Ellen begged her to return to work and then fired her after 1 week, no reason given, and my friend struggled for a long time with a new baby and no benefits." I'm left a little speechless after this one. I'm sure there is more to the story than just those few sentences, obviously. It sounds like there were a lot of factors involved, and I'm kind of hoping that this one isn't true, because obviously that's awful. Moving on, at number 6, we have the time she wanted specific food. It's no secret that Ellen is vegan and does a lot when it comes to fighting for animal rights. But one person said she went just a little too far when it came to wanting a specific vegan food item. A woman online came forward and said, "I was PAing for the Letterman special and her rider was 50 items long, and one was a specific vegan cauliflower puff that are rarely sold. So I had to drive to 15 different grocery stores to find it, and then she didn't even touch it. Yeah, that'd be annoying. I understand that you need a vegan menu if that's what your diet consists of because of allergies or your beliefs, but that specific of an item I get would be totally frustrating for a PA because I've been on movie sets before and stuff, so that's really annoying. I get it. We're halfway through and we have how she treats her staff. A writer who used to work for her named Benjamin Simon said that she didn't treat her staff very well and took a few examples to Twitter. One of his tweets said, "A new staff member was told every day she picks someone different to really hate. It's not your fault, just suck it up for the day and she'll be mean to someone else the next day." They didn't believe it, but it ended up being entirely true. He followed that tweet with another ridiculous claim saying that when she's in a bad mood, upper management will highly encourage them to go into her office and do a little comedy bit to help cheer her up. I mean, sometimes a laugh is what we need when we're having a bad day, but I did find a lot of stories online claiming that she doesn't treat her staff properly. So, rolling into number 4 is the time she got exposed by a hairdresser. A lot of these stories come from people who worked for her or through their friends who said that they had a bad experience with her, but a girl named Anastasia told the story that a hair salon in LA deemed Ellen as one of the rudest celebrities that goes in there. She tweeted out, "I lived in LA, got my hair done at Michi where there were a lot of celebrities. I always asked employees who was the meanest, who was the nicest. Nice were Julia Roberts, Cameron Diaz, Rita Wilson. Mean were Ellen, overwhelming number, and Charlize Theron, saw firsthand." So this is coming from different hairdressers who have celebrities going in and out of there all the time. So this one's kind of interesting because it's like a totally outside perspective. We're coming to the 3rd spot and we have she asked a PA to give back their Christmas gift. Come on, I feel like this is way too petty to be true. But someone came forward and claimed that they were friends with a PA that this happened to. A user named Nick Weiger tweeted, "Friend was a PA on her show, got their first staff writer job and put in their notice with Ellen. Instead of congrats, they were told to give their Christmas gift back." He followed his first tweet by saying that she only gives gifts to the staff members that she likes. Like I said, some of these stories are a little too petty to be true, unless she really is that petty. I don't know. Sniping number 2 spot is the time she shut down a barbecue. This one is another example of a time when her passion for veganism came through. A wardrobe expert and best-selling author Alison Freer took her story to Twitter and said, "I was working on a show at Warner Brothers that was next to her stage. It was our showrunner's 50th birthday. There was a caterer grilling steaks outside for a special fancy lunch. Ellen sent someone over to demand they stop as she doesn't eat meat. She's the worst." This is how I see it. She's able to have her vegan lifestyle the same way that meat eaters can have their lifestyle. By them barbecuing outside, it doesn't mean that you have to eat it. I mean, I'm sure you've been to a restaurant where they're cooking meat in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Finally, we have made it to number 1, and we have the time that she compared quarantine to jail. This happened recently, and people online started attacking the comedian and exposing her for taking a joke too far. During quarantine, Ellen decided to keep her talk show going through YouTube videos, like us, and one of them caused her to remove it from social media. In one of her videos, she made a comment saying, "One thing that I've learned from being in quarantine is that this is like being in jail. It is what it is. It's mostly because I've been wearing the same clothes for 10 days and everyone in here is gay." It wasn't long before the joke was being slammed all over the internet. One person called her out and said, "Disappointed in Ellen for joking about being in jail while she sits in her multi-million-dollar mansion with access to anything she wants. Many of us are struggling to get essentials and are exposed on the front lines, but please continue exercising your privilege." That was just one response, guys, all right? The YouTube video was listed unavailable not long after the backlash started. Starting us off at number 10 is Elton John. It's been more than 20 years since Ellen first came out as a lesbian, but she still holds on to that moment and opened up about a shocking story. During the period that followed her shocking news, she received a ton of backlash for it, and one person who had a lot to say about it was Elton John. When he did an interview and they asked him about his thoughts on the news, he said, I quote, "Shut up already. We know you're gay. Be funny." Elton too is gay and admits that everyone at that time was talking about it and he was just getting kind of sick of it. He wanted her to focus on her role as a comedian and less about her sexuality. It was still a little harsh. I mean, we gotta be honest. I feel like there's a better way of saying that. They seem to work through their issues now, but there was a time when tensions were very high. Up next, number 9 is Wendy Williams. Their issues with each other seem a little petty and has always remained in their professional lives, not so much in their personal. Even though Wendy has been on Ellen's show a few times, Wendy's never invited Ellen on hers. Wendy's often blamed for using harsh words and expressions on her show against Portia de Rossi, who happens to be Ellen's wife. Even when Portia first came out, reports say that Wendy approached her on the red carpet and asked her to comment on the recent story going around that she was getting close with a woman in a jacuzzi. Portia was not open about her relationship with Ellen during that time, and apparently Wendy knew about that. So since then, the two of them have taken shots at each other during interviews. Sometimes it seems like a joke, while other times it's kind of hard to tell and it just leaves like this awkward tension. Kind of like the time when Wendy told Ellen that people think that she looks like Justin Bieber. She's not wrong. That meme does go around the internet, but still a little awkward. Sightings number 7 is Kim Burrell. People actually had Ellen's side on this one because Kim made a statement that was super offensive to the LGBTQ community. During a sermon at her church in Houston, Texas, she referred to homosexuality as the perverted homosexual spirit. After the video footage went viral online, Ellen banned her from coming to the show. She was actually supposed to sing on her show alongside Pharrell Williams later that week, but Ellen tweeted, "For those asking, Kim Burrell will not be appearing on my show." Kim posted a response video and said she makes no excuses or apologies for her comments and said that she was simply saying that homosexuality is a sin in her religion. She said she does not hate people of the LGBTQ, but said that it goes against the nature of God, which she obviously is very passionate about. Moving on to number 6, we have Giada De Laurentiis. Now, it could be Giada because it's very Italian, so I'm probably butchering it. For years, she has been sharing her cooking secrets on the Food Network, and if you've watched her show, then you know that she always pronounces different Italian food with an Italian accent. But she did a cooking segment on Ellen's show where she whipped up some pasta for her, and Ellen started poking fun at her for her pronunciation. Giada was not having it, so she gave Ellen a tutorial on how to properly say penne and spaghetti. She should probably give me that tutorial because I'm sure it sounds very different. This isn't the first time that there's been this like awkward tension between them. She actually went on her show in 2017 where she made food for Ellen and Nicole Kidman, and they both kind of made these negative comments and jokes about her so-called bad cooking. And when you do that as your profession, it's definitely insulting. You never insult the chef on live television. Halfway through number 5 is Sherri Shepherd. She has a personal issue with Ellen because she was banned from her show due to her evolving stance on gay marriage. Keep in mind the word evolving. The comedian appeared on the first season of Ellen but was banned after she made comments on The View saying that she was once against gay marriage. Sherri had nothing bad to say about Ellen, but she's very hurt with her decision to not invite her back on the show. She said, "The views and thoughts that I had evolved from the statements I had on The View over 10 years ago, and I now support same-sex marriage and partnerships." People were quick to call Ellen a hypocrite for always claiming that she can be friends with people who share different views than her. Coming in hot number 4 is Benjamin Simon. The famous TV writer made bold claims on Twitter saying that Ellen is not very nice to her coworkers and employees. He exposed different stories from her show and said that, I quote, "She has a sensitive nose, so everyone must chew gum from a bowl outside of her office before talking to her. And if she thinks you smell that day, you have to go home and shower." Quite the accusation, right? That was just one example. He actually tweeted out 5 more after that. For the sake of this video, I will not read out all 6 of them, but even the first one is enough to know that he does not think too highly of her, especially if he is willing to expose her like that, or try to expose her like that, if it's true or not. Alright guys, we made to number 3, and we have Jameela Jamil. The actress got into messy Twitter drama involving Ellen back in 2019 after Ellen was seen buddying up with George Bush at a Dallas Cowboys game. At first, Jameela applauded Ellen for her speech on accepting everyone despite their beliefs, and said that she was actually impressed with how she handled it. But then she took all of her tweets back after learning more about the former president and tweeted out, "What a monstrous leader. I now understand the rage." So she was once backing up Ellen's decision to be friends with him, but then she was quick to join the rest of the world who was furious about it. In spot number 2 is Liza Minnelli. Back in 2014, Ellen was the host of the Oscar Awards, and during her opening monologue, she cracked jokes about Liza, who did not find it all that funny. In her speech, she said, "Hello to the best Liza Minnelli impersonator I've ever seen. And then, as the cameras panned over to Liza, who was in the audience, Ellen said, "Good job, sir." Of course, Liza would be upset by that. She later told TMZ, "I think Ellen thought it would be funny, but she never stopped after she said it and said, 'My friend, Liza Minnelli.' I think it went a little astray on her." She didn't have any rude comments to say about Ellen and said that she always thought Ellen was wonderful, but the joke was a little too far. That is how you ruin friendships, Ellen. Winning first place on our list is Eric Trump. I thought that putting Donald Trump at number 1 would be too obvious because it is no secret that Ellen despises him and that they've been very open about their feelings towards each other. They're not friends. Turns out though, like father, like son, Eric Trump doesn't like her either. Back in 2018, he made a very unusual claim on Twitter. He shared a screenshot of his Twitter follow suggestions, which read Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Ellen. He hashtagged it #DeepState, which refers to this conspiracy theory that there's a secret group of people who coordinate efforts to try and delegitimize the Trump administration. Ellen banned him from coming to her show, not that he would be invited, and did what she does best in response to all of it. She made jokes about it.
In at number 10, embarrassed her own audience. Now, not all of these reasons for Ellen's career falling apart have happened recently. In 2017, Ellen was beloved by everyone, but some started to view her in a more negative light when she embarrassed one of her audience members live on TV. Ellen had set up a table with cheap gift bags and had her team put in a hidden camera. When one of the guests grabbed an extra bag for a family member that couldn't make it to the taping, Ellen just put her on blast.
I like that you like the product so much that you wanted to bring one back for your sister, but now when you go like to Costco or
The worst part is that Ellen embarrassed her in front of the entire studio audience as well as everyone watching at home. All she could do is just laugh along with everyone else in this very awkward televised moment. It's very lazy of her to just embarrass her own audience for a game, and everyone saw right through it. In at number 6, she bailed on her staff. When the pandemic shut down all of the studios in Hollywood, Ellen was faced with a tough choice. She has spoken about how much she loves and appreciates her staff, so you would think that in these difficult times that she would have at least kept them in the loop. The core stage crew though for the show had a staff of more than 30 employees, yet they received no written communication about the status of their working hours, pay, or inquiries about their mental and physical health from producers for over a month. Then when they finally were notified, nearly all crew members were told to brace for a 60% reduction in pay, even as the show continued to air from Ellen's home. The worst part is that she hired a non-union crew to replace the staff she apparently cared so much for. Oh, and then she said her mansion felt like jail.
One thing that I've learned from being in quarantine is that people, this is like being in jail, is what it is.
Never forget. Never forget that she said her mansion felt like a jail cell. In at number 5, rude to regular people. Going back to that original tweet from Kevin Porter for a moment here, a lot of people who didn't work for Ellen but had interactions with her otherwise also popped into the conversation. A.D. Rose said, "My friend waited on her and she threw a plate of salmon in his face because it wasn't what she ordered." That one seems like pretty wild, right? But when you read on, there's several more servers and wait staff that have also complained about her. Take Chris Farah for example. She said, "I worked at Real Food Daily and served her and Portia at brunch. She wrote a letter to the owner and complained about my chipped nail polish. Not that it was on her plate, but that it was just on my hand. I had worked till closing the night before and this was next morning. Almost got me fired." She tried to have this woman fired because she had chipped nail polish. I'm sorry, but if that makes you so mad that you have to sit down and write a letter, you need anger management classes. In at number 2, mean to people with disabilities. So not only has Ellen had a mean streak with guests, celebrities, and even her own audience, turns out she's especially not a fan of people with disabilities. Within the Kevin Porter tweet, Josh Levesque replied with this: "A friend of mine told me about a custodian she knew who was fired because he was slightly autistic and forgot that he wasn't allowed to look at or speak to her, and he loved greeting everyone." Now, not on Ellen's watch. I mean, rules are rules, buddy. I don't care if you're autistic, what disability you have. You look Ellen in the eyes and you're out. Just the rules of the Ellen Show. Then there was this heartbreaking one. Lindsay Jamba tweeted, "My brother is a Make-A-Wish kid. His wish was to be at the 12 Days of Ellen, which was arranged 1 month before they canceled because Ellen refuses to interact with disabled people." Crushed his heart. That's messed up and something that any person just can't ignore, whether you're a fan of hers or not. In at number 10, unconventional childhood. Growing up, Ellen didn't really have a typical upbringing because her parents full-on believed in Christian Science. They essentially used the word of the Bible as their guide to eternal life, which includes how they take care of people when they're sick. It was a system of belief that caused Ellen a lot of physical and emotional pain in her life. The worst part of her childhood was that her parents actually never took her to see a doctor, nor did they give her any medicine when she was feeling ill. Now I'm sure most of her fans would accept Ellen's Christian Science past, but others may feel alienated by it, so she keeps it pretty under wraps. As a result of being raised in a Christian Science household, Ellen was never even vaccinated as a child. Another secret she doesn't want you to know about. In at number 6, Ellen Not So Generous. In May of 2019, Ellen had country star Blake Shelton on the show and among other questions repeatedly brought up his relationship with Gwen Stefani. She then even gifted him with a large clock of the pair kissing that was supposed to encourage them to get married. The clock being a reminder that time is well ticking. Well, when he came back on the show in December of 2019, and other than him being embarrassed by again Ellen asking more questions about his personal relationship, we found out that he actually never received the clock. And Blake took full advantage of his time on the show to expose Ellen for not actually giving these gifts to her guests, but instead recycling them whenever she wanted. In at number 3, publicity stunts. In a bizarre turn of events, in order to distract from the negative attention that attending a football game with a war criminal brings, Ellen just kissed Howard Stern. While on the show, Stern made note about how under fire she was over the George Bush photo. He then explains that he's on her side and that booking him was a great idea. Howard then suggests that if the pair were to kiss on television, it would switch the focus to them. The really hilarious part about all of this is just how open they are with it. Anyone with a brain can see that she's creating these publicity stunts to drum up controversy and get more name recognition. However, if you were to ask Ellen, she would never admit that it was all just a cover up to hide her mistakes. In at number 2, took money from school kids. In 1984, California voters approved the state lottery with an understanding that 34% of sales revenue would go towards education. However, in December, the company just gave Ellen a ton of scratch tickets to just give away to her audience. In fact, each audience member received a $500 bundle of scratchers tickets from the California State Lottery. Now, of course, they both saw this as a publicity boom, but a whistleblower from inside the company is suggesting that it was a misuse of funds. The total face value for these tickets was just over $200,000, and by just giving away these lottery tickets on her show, Ellen and the lottery company should be held responsible for that loss. The weird thing is that they even mentioned how the revenue from the tickets goes towards education in Los Angeles. Then she just turns around and accepts the gift with no money exchanged to the charity. Last but certainly not least, in our number 1 spot, Portia moved out. There have always been rumors that Ellen and Portia's marriage wasn't actually going well, and speculation would rise every time Ellen was seen not wearing her wedding ring. Although once being locked down in quarantine with each other and Ellen coming under attack recently for so many things, Portia has officially moved out. Instead of living in the home that they purchased together in LA when they got married, an insider source said that Portia has been living in Montecito Heights for weeks. The source went on to say Ellen tries to appease her by giving her whatever she wants, like her art company and buying any home Portia falls in love with. However, some time apart will do them good. They love each other so much, so I don't think they're about to give up on their marriage just yet.